The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webcast on the topic of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Cloud versus hybrid infrastructure options. What do you really need to know? My name is Amir Kashniati. I'm going to be giving a brief intro to the topic today, and then I will be passing it over to Alex Quidney and Jason Berg for the heavy lifting. With that being said, just want to give you guys a quick introduction into who Avantico is, and I know Jason will touch upon NUMA Networks and their relationship with us from a partnership standpoint, so I will leave that portion to him. But tying it back to who we are, we were founded in 2006. We've been a fully certified Microsoft Dynamics partner, both on the ERP and CRM side since. We've been members of the TAP program. We have members of our team who are MVPs, such as Alex, who's presenting today, and myself being a board member, both on the UG side, both for AX and CRM. We're headquartered in sunny San Diego, California, and have offices spanning all the way up the West Coast through Temecula, Irvine, LA, and then all the way through the European presence of London and Copenhagen. Our vertical expertise spans the manufacturing and distribution vertical. Also, we touch upon professional services and financial services. We have practice groups built around retail e-commerce and also public sector. We also have some add-on products specific to public sector called our Advanced Public Sector module. We've developed a few add-ons on the mobility side, both a administrative app that helps you manage the ERP remotely and securely, and also a workflow app. And we also have a address verification and validation solution that has been developed in partnership with Experian. That tool is now used as a preliminary tool for data migration and validating the data, moving both from an upgrade or migrate situation, as well as a situation where you may have legacy data that needs to be validated. And as mentioned before, we are a full Dynamics practice. We do everything from rescue projects. We have a support desk. We do all kind of advisory training, road mapping, solution discovery, all the way through to really the go live staging. With that being said, and giving a background about us, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Alex Quidney, who can give an intro to the topic and get us started on today's webcast. Alex, the floor is yours.
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Quidney. I just went back a slide so you know who you're talking to. So I've been I'll give you a little brief background about myself. I've been working with Dynamics AX since 4.0 and now all the way up to 365. And so for about the last 9 years, and I'm a part of the Microsoft MVP program, and I've also been to many events. So you may, if you've gone to a user group or if you've gone to any of the AXUG conferences, you may have seen me at one of the booths or running around. So I first wanted to talk about for Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations Enterprise Edition, which is the formal title, is what deployment options are available if you're considering either moving yours to a new ERP to Dynamics 365 or upgrading from, say, your existing AX instance to 365. One of the important things you'll have to decide is what deployment option you'd want to go with. So what we have here are the three planned deployment options. We've got cloud plus edge, and local business data. And from this graphic, you can see where the cloud on the left, all of the services run in Azure and all the features are available. So this is the ideal setup where everything's sitting in the Azure stack. Microsoft takes care of all the infrastructure and maintenance and disaster recovery in this scenario. So if there's a hardware component that breaks down, you may never know it failed because there's automatic redundancy. There's no on-premise servers you need to service or install updates after the second Tuesday of any month. So Microsoft really takes care of everything for you. It's also the most robust in terms of features and connectivity with Azure because it lives in the Azure sphere. Your hybrid option, which is the cloud plus edge, what this is for more special cases where if you have a central important warehouse that ships around the clock that may have internet connectivity problems or for any reason you have to have guaranteed uptime. 100% uptime, and you feel more comfortable having servers in your own, or servers on that, say, warehouse, you would use a cloud plus edge option where the brains of the operation would be still in the cloud, but you have what you have are called edge nodes that exist in your locations. And some specific cases would be like if you had poor internet connectivity and you don't want to have a warehouse shut down. What that does is it does a mirroring between your cloud instance and your edge instance. Your edge instance is also typically going to be maybe one company or some warehouse or location. It's usually a subset of your entire data set, which would exist in the cloud. And then your last option would be the local business data. This has gone through several different terms, but it's local business data now. That would be what you'd consider on-premise. But what that is that's where you have all of your data locally and the option to reuse your existing investments in hardware. So not all the features are available unless you accept and sync your data to the cloud. So you do have, you're missing a lot of the features that come with Azure because it doesn't live in Azure anymore. And it uses what's called App Fabric or Service Fabric to spread across all the servers on all three instances. So with that, I want to give you, with this grid, to give you some more use case scenarios of the different ones. So for cloud, that's where it's fully managed in Microsoft, and it's got all features, and that's where you ideally do that if you don't have any specific needs for your cloud plus edge or your local business data. The local business data would be if you wanted to have data isolation where you may have some very strict data requirements, or if you wanted to capitalize on your hardware investments. And that cloud and edge is specifically for if your organization's distributed and you had a certain unique requirements for warehouses or uptime or poor internet generally. One of the data trustee in the cloud is Microsoft, where cloud plus edge, it's Microsoft and the customer, and then the local business data, it's entirely on the customer. So one of the things with the cloud capabilities, if you look, I wanted to note on the cloud plus edge is where your edge nodes are much more limited because they're not embedded in the cloud. And then local business data, it doesn't exist in that Azure sphere, so that is also limited. And then for updates, health monitoring, you use LCS for all three options. LCS is Lifecycle Services, and it's Microsoft's brains to connect and wire everything together. And so right now, the cloud and local business data options are both available. Cloud plus Edge is still coming. It's the second half of 2018 is when they're planning on it being released. So with Dynamics 365, through deployments, it leverages a variety of Azure services. It's important to note that Azure is more than just server hosting and has a suite of robust services from Active Directory to all sorts of data storage for Azure SQL or blob storage and Power BI. So it's not just hosted servers, it's much more than that. So Dynamics 365 is able to leverage that. It also uses scalable Azure SQL on the back end to store data. So that's which it can be much faster. You can see from your security management, it uses Azure Active Directory, and then it also connects with Dynamics Lifecycle Services. And then the whole suite of Dynamics 365 business applications run on it. So from your retail, manufacturing services, and all the way to your operations, and they all connect and they live more natively. From a performance standpoint, it makes it dramatically simpler to scale anything up as well. So you can think of it as turning a dial versus in your current organization you may have to buy a new virtual host and then migrate everything with a complex cutover on a weekend. Where in Azure you can just turn things up to improve performance. And then you have embedded applications as well, such as Power BI, PowerApps, and Flow. So here you can see some of the other cloud services that are utilized. From all the different, on the left column, you'll see sales, customer service, field services. Those are the different Dynamics 365 deployment applications. They all deploy with Azure Active Directory, load balancing, multi-factor authentication. And you can see the variety of integration services that are available out of the box. For things such as BizTalk services, the IoT Suite, which works natively with a lot of the different Dynamics 365 applications. And then you have things like Visual Studio Team Services, which is now the de facto service for code management, and then your code deployment, project management for all your development as well. So I want to talk now about some of the possibilities of Dynamics 365. With Dynamics 365, it introduced the common data services, which are built on the common data model. This provides the glue for application platform services and their core functions. You can see on the infographic on the right where the common data services are built on that common data model. And so you'll see that those terms potentially used interchangeably, but the common data services is the term they're going with now. And so it's a system agnostic database and provides connectivity through entities and other methods. What they have are three essential tenets. They've got measure, act, and automate, where measure would be your Power BI. This is where you can view data in ways that are useful to your business. Your act would be PowerApps, and these are for purpose-built applications that let you enter and retrieve data and take actions based on that data. And then automate, this is Flow. That's Microsoft Flow, where it lets you create automated workflows between the different systems, and it's an integration engine. And so these systems, or these services, PowerApps, Flow, and Microsoft BI or Power BI, are all system agnostic as well. They're designed to work with more than Dynamics 365, so they can work with BYOD, which is bring your own database, and all sorts of other applications. So I wanted to drill into some of these options a little bit more. So I wanted to talk first about PowerApps. So with PowerApps, it allows your users to quickly create purpose-built applications that work across Windows, iOS, and Android. These apps can be very small business applications that may display, say, for example, a sales rep's individual customers, or it can be robust applications used on the manufacturing floor to record production data, to monitor sensors, to do pretty much anything you can imagine. They allow you to connect to create connections to common software as a service services such as Dynamics 365, Office 365, Twitter, Excel. You can connect to custom endpoints, really anything you can imagine. And so the real nice feature about this is they're designed so that you can build applications without code if you want. And so you can also enable your business users to have access to create their own Power Apps. So if you're in IT and you're doing a developer or you're in the technical side, and you want to enable your users to create their own applications to do whatever work that they choose to do, you can really turn those things over. So what they can do is they can create specific small applications or large applications that serve their personal need or maybe their division's need in their corporations. And they're very easily deployable. You can just deploy them directly to all sorts of devices in your organization. I wanted to talk about Flow now. This is the second tenet. With Flow, it lets you create automated workflows between applications and systems to do pretty much anything you can imagine. And so it's an integration engine with simplicity in mind. If you've ever used if this, then that, it's similar to that in a lot of respects. It can work in conjunction with PowerApps, or it can stand alone for standalone integrations. There's a variety of pre-built integrations. For an example, when a customer is created in your CRM system, whether your CRM system may be Dynamics 365 for sales, or if you have Salesforce, for example, where you're using Dynamics 365 for operations or Dynamics AX for your ERP, but you want to continue using maybe Salesforce for your CRM, there are canned integrations that will, when you create a customer in Salesforce, it'll propagate down to Dynamics 365 for operations. You can also create flows to send push notifications when an action occurs, such as when someone's tweeting about a specific hashtag or a new customer is created. And so how you can use Flow is really up to your imagination and need. So you may, and it also Flow works seamlessly with Power Apps. So if you have a Power App that you can trigger actions on the Power App that can start flows that'll ultimately send push notifications or tweets or emails or do really whatever you can dream up. And you can see on the screenshot on the right, there's some popular connectors to Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, Twitter. You can pull in RSS feeds. You can also connect to Microsoft Teams, and you can build your own integrations and connectors too. So if you wanted to make your own connector, you could wrap it and expose it, and then you can now have a Flow integration. So I wanted to talk a little bit about machine learning for some other possibilities for Dynamics 365. So when everything's built on the Azure stack, it represents a paradigm change from the standalone application to a set of cloud-based applications working together seamlessly. So this lets you leverage things like Azure Machine Learning, which is a part of another feature that's part of the Azure suite. So one out of the box example in Dynamics 365 is generating demand forecasting. In the past, results from demand forecasting processes are based on math and history to try for a best guess of what you'll need to purchase. Developers will make code that says, okay, if we purchased X amount in some month, we should probably purchase some percentage of that in the following months. And they can really be limited on what you can do through code and predict it. So if you run it on 1 year data in the past, it could take certain averages or percents and generally does an okay job, but doesn't account for certain things like ebbs and flows in the industry or other scenarios. So with Azure Machine Learning, leveraging it, you can take, and if you look on the right, you can take all your data and essentially funnel it up into Azure into the cloud where it already exists. So you really, your data is living in Machine Learning Studio if you choose to use it, and you can take advantage of those features. So if you look on the right, pictured here is a pre-made demand forecasting experiment. That's what they're called. So you can take your historical data and then it takes the machine learning and it will produce a statistical guide to more accurately predict your demand, and it only gets smarter over time. So it pretty much learns from your data. And this is something that you really can't do through traditional programming. But with Azure Machine Learning in the cloud, everything's all in the same orbit, so it makes it simple. I wanted to also talk about some of the other possibilities of Dynamics 365. So there's the Internet of Things, and the IoT stands for the Internet of Things, which represents how everyday devices are connecting to the Internet. Devices such as security cameras, your Fitbit bracelets, your refrigerator may be wireless and connect, or as pictured on the right, sensors and machines in a factory. And you can use this you can just pretty much connect to anything. And so with the Azure IoT Suite, it allows you to connect and monitor, say, your industrial equipment in the cloud, where you can analyze the data for insights to help improve performance. You can connect and monitor devices with remote monitoring, so you can get better visibility into your devices, your assets, the sensors, wherever they may be, with real-time device data. This gives you a much clearer picture. You can also connect this with PowerApps so that your Internet of Things, and you can see, if you look on the left, you can have PowerApps that look similar to this, so that you can monitor your warehouses, and it's all real time. So what this does is this will increase your equipment reliability and production reliability with better predictive maintenance. So you can be aware of potential issues before they happen based on your engineers and sensors that you set up and connect to monitor. With that said, you can really do just about anything with Dynamics 365, and it's no longer a single standalone application that lives on one server or a couple servers. It's now a suite of applications that blend seamlessly with Azure. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to Jason, who can tell you about NUMA Networks.
Thank you, Alex. So, hi, my name is Jason Berg, and as Amir said earlier, I'm VP of Operations here at NUMA Networks. We've been around since about 2010. We're an IT service provider in Orange County, California. We serve about 100 clients, assisting them in driving their technology initiatives. So here you can see some of our current clients that we've helped in reaching their IT and infrastructure goals. We're Microsoft Gold partners. We've had a lot of proven success in helping move clients into the cloud. We partnered with Avantico as they help move their clients into the cloud. We focus on installing and maintaining the infrastructure, which can either be hosted on-prem or in the cloud, while they focus on the CRM and ERP side of things. What I really want to talk to you about today is how to secure your data as you move it into the cloud, and quickly go over what tools and services are available for you to do that. So here what I have is basically some examples of some missteps that companies have made in the past in terms of securing their data and securing their sites. So the first one is Google. This one happened several years ago. There was an engineer that was able to access Gmail data without any limitations, and he used it to harass a teenager. It basically shows a lack of process and a lack of technical controls that they had on their end, because he was able to access data without the business need for it, right? There's something that happened a couple years ago at Reddit, which is a popular website, where one executive had direct access to the database to make changes, and he was going in and changing user comments. It really was an employee that had no business role to be accessing the database, right? And then, Sony is kind of the epitome of bad things that can happen with lack of security controls and processes. They really had several processes that had to break in order to get compromised to the extent that they were, and they lost a lot of data. A lot of stuff went public that was very embarrassing to them, and it's all because of that lack of security and controls and process. So Microsoft has enabled processes and internal controls within their cloud to prevent any one employee from accessing end user data without cause. In the event that an engineer needs to access data, they actually must submit a request with justification and a time window they need to access the data. That request must go through an internal approval process first. So Microsoft is seriously committed to safeguarding customers' data, to protect the right to make decisions about that data, and to be transparent about what happens to that data. Everything is guided by a set of trusted cloud principles that articulate their vision of what enterprise organizations are entitled to expect from their cloud provider. Security, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data is secured. Microsoft Cloud Services are designed, developed, and operated to help ensure that data is secure. Privacy and control. No one is able to use your data in a way that you do not approve. Microsoft prioritizes your data privacy. Their commercial cloud customers own their data, and they don't use it to deliver any targeted advertising. Compliance. You can meet your regulatory obligations. This means they support you with certified compliance credentials backed by third-party audits. And then transparency. You understand how your data is being handled and used. This means they provide an appropriate level of transparency into security, privacy, and compliance practices and actions to help protect your information. Strong security protects customer data from hackers and unauthorized access by using state-of-the-art industry technology, best practices, and certifications backed by third parties. Secure cloud solutions are the result of comprehensive planning, intelligent design, and efficient operations. Microsoft makes security a priority at every step, from code development to incident response. Here's what they're doing about it. Their data centers are equipped with state-of-the-art physical security measures. Their data centers designed to run 24/7, 365 are physically constructed, managed, and monitored to shelter data and services from unauthorized access, as well as environmental threats. They're equipped with 24-hour monitoring, multi-factor authentication, including biometric scanning, an internal network that is isolated from the public internet. They operate a 24/7 incident response team to mitigate threats from attacks. Microsoft has a 24/7 incident response service that works to mitigate threats from attacks and malicious activity. The incident response team follows established procedures for incident management, communication, and recovery, and uses discoverable and predictable interfaces internally and to customers and partners. They encrypt all data in transit between you and their data centers. Microsoft provides a range of encryption options to help customers ensure that their data is protected. For data in transit, Microsoft Cloud Services uses industry standard transport protocols between devices and Microsoft data centers and within the data centers themselves. You can also enable encryption for traffic between your own virtual machines and end users. They protect your stored data with built-in tools and provide access to further encryption capabilities. For data at rest, Microsoft provides a wide range of encryption options, giving customers the flexibility to choose the solution that best meets their needs. And to ensure you maintain control over your encrypted data, you have the option to generate and manage your own encryption keys and determine who is authorized to use them. As we'll talk about a little later, Microsoft has developed its Azure Active Directory service, which really controls access to all Microsoft's cloud services to give you the options of protecting your credentials and authentication in a way that suits your compliance and business needs best. So privacy, so you own your data. Microsoft uses your customer data only to provide the services you have agreed upon and do not mine your customer data for marketing or advertising. This also means that you can access your customer data at any time for any reason. You know where your data is located. Customers must maintain data in specific geographic locations, such as within the EU, can look to Microsoft's ever-expanding network of data centers around the globe, where each data center meets stringent security requirements. You control your customer data. You know where your customer data is located, who can access it, and under what circumstances, how it is responsibly protected, transferred, and deleted, and how they respond to government and law enforcement requests to access customer data. They set and adhere to stringent privacy standards. Privacy protections are grounded in the Microsoft Privacy Standard and Microsoft Security Development Lifecycle. They back those protections with strong contractual commitments to safeguard customer data. So as I mentioned earlier, Azure Active Directory is the authentication backbone for all of Microsoft's cloud services. You have the option of keeping that authentication solely within Microsoft's highly available cloud, or sharing some of that load with Microsoft to either enable password synchronization or completely control the authentication process if that's what's required by your business. The two most commonly deployed scenarios for Azure Active Directory are password sync and pass-through. With password sync, an unreversible hash is created of each user's password and synced to Microsoft's cloud. Microsoft still manages the highly available authentication infrastructure, but provides the ease of use by allowing users to use the same password to access their cloud services as they do their on-premises services. Using the pass-through option, all authentication requests are redirected to the customer's on-premises infrastructure. Microsoft will store no password or password hashes in this type of setup. This can be a regulatory or compliance need that some organizations must have. Another added benefit of doing this is your users will typically only have to authenticate one time, easing access to cloud services. There are some additional infrastructure requirements to using this option, so those benefits must be weighed with the appropriate costs and risks, and this is a decision we can help you guys out with. So two-factor authentication, I touched on it earlier and I want to get a little deeper. Every day we hear about password compromises at various sites. Recently, Cloudflare, who provides access to many of the internet's most popular sites, published a security compromise called CloudBleed. Cloudflare potentially exposed millions of passwords, and they're not the only ones to do so. We've heard about the same thing happening at Uber, Yelp, Fitbit, OkCupid, and many, many others. Many users are known to reuse passwords on multiple sites, even using their corporate email address as their username. Many of these passwords end up on the dark web. I've seen them myself. So two-factor authentication mitigates the potential of a bad actor finding your user's credentials and using them to access your corporate data. The entire premise is built on having something the user knows, like a password, along with something they have, like a phone. Without both, they can't access their account. So even if an attacker has a user's email address and password, they have no access without being able to receive a phone call, a text, or a push authentication using the user's phone. Sometimes for the purposes of diagnostics and maintenance, Microsoft will need access to systems that house your data. Microsoft has implemented proper policies and technological systems to ensure that requests for access to end user data are required to have internal approval with reason and time constraints. So those requests must be just in time. They get it only when they request it, not sooner. They get just enough access. They're only given what they need to troubleshoot the task before them. It's time bound, so their access to the system is automatically revoked at a certain time. And then there's logging and auditing. There's a trail to track each access granted. For security conscious organizations who would like to be a part of the data access process, Microsoft has developed something called Lockbox. Lockbox puts you into that process and allows you to have ultimate say in who has access to your data. So you can approve and deny requests to your data as they come in. All of Microsoft's security practices around their cloud solutions are available for you to read and review at the Trust Center. Here you can see physical controls, lockbox procedures, current audits, and much, much more. It's to give you confidence that they can be trusted with your data. And if you need any help digging through this information, NUMA Networks is more than happy to help you find the information you need. And with that, I will open it up to any questions we may have.